He should not have said it like that. Not in my house. Not while standing beside my broken sofa and the stack of overdue bills I had shoved under a magazine like that made them invisible. Victor Sterling looked me in the eye and said, "My daughters trusted you in one night more than they trust most people after years. I want to know why." I laughed once, but there was nothing funny in it. "You had someone follow me?" "I had someone verify you," he said calmly. "There is a difference." Amanda stood near my kitchen table with her hands locked together so tight, her knuckles had gone pale. Samantha would not look at me at all, and me, I was standing there in an old t-shirt, rent overdue, power one bad week away from getting cut. That while a man whose watch probably cost more than my car studied me like I was a blueprint, he might approve or tear in half. Then he said the line that hit harder than anything else. "If I offer you a way back into the life you lost, will you think you earned it? Or will your pride ruin you again?" That should have made the answer easy. Instead, all I could think about was the first time I saw Amanda on my porch, soaked through, scared, and lying to me with those steady eyes. So why did a part of me still want to open the door all over again? My name is Marcus Hale. I am 32 years old, and 2 weeks before Victor Sterling walked into my duplex and turned my life upside down, I had already decided I was done expecting anything good from people. That night, and I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cold cup of instant coffee and 3 unpaid bills spread in front of me like a private humiliation. I kept telling myself I would sort them by urgency. Electric first, water second, rent somehow after that. But the truth was simple. I did not have enough money for any version of the plan. A year earlier, I had an office in Denver, with glass walls and a team that looked at me like I knew where we were headed. Before that, I had clients who shook my hand with both of theirs and called me a visionary. Then came the lawsuit. Bad contractors, cut corners. My firm took the blame. By the time the dust settled, my name was still mine, but almost everything attached to it was gone. So I moved to Colorado Springs, into a tired duplex on Maple Street, and started over with a laptop that overheated and a folding drafting table, and the kind of silence that gets inside your chest if you let it. The knock came late. Not a casual tap, not the kind neighbors use when they need sugar or a jump start. It was sharp, then another one, then the bell. I froze with the bill still in my hand. I did not get visitors. The few people who knew where I lived were clients, and none of them were showing up that late. My first thought was trouble. My second thought was that trouble usually did not ring twice unless it really wanted to be invited in. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. 2 women stood on my porch. They looked young. Mid-20s, maybe. One taller, blonde, shoulders straight even though she was shivering. The other shorter, dark curls stuck to her face, and one arm wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold herself together. They were both drenched and both looking over their shoulders in a way I did not like. I kept the chain on and opened the door a crack. "Can I help you?" The taller one stepped closer. Her voice was controlled, but I heard the strain under it. "I'm sorry to knock this late. Our car broke down and our phones are useless out here. We've tried other houses." Nobody answered. "Could we please use your phone?" The shorter one gave a quick nod. "Please, just one call." I studied them for a second longer than was polite. I had heard enough stories to know people could fake fear. I had also lived long enough to know real fear has a look onto it. It is not loud. It is the way someone keeps checking the dark behind them like they expect it to move. What happened to the car?" "Battery, maybe?" the blonde said. "I'm not sure. It stopped and wouldn't start again." She answered too fast, not rehearsed, just careful. I should have said no. I should have pointed them toward a gas station, or told them to keep knocking, or given them some safe reason why I could not help. But I looked at the shorter ones shaking hands, then at the taller one, trying too hard not to show how scared she really was. And something in me gave. I took the chain off. "Come in, just for the call." The relief on both their faces was immediate and real. That was what got me. Not gratitude. Relief. They stepped inside and the house changed. It still had the same old floor, the same weak light in the hall, the same smell of dust and coffee. But all at once it did not feel empty anymore. It felt watched. Not in a bad way, just awake. I grabbed 2 towels from the closet and handed them over. "I'm Marcus." The blonde took one. "Amanda." The other gave me a small, tired smile. "Samantha." I led them to the kitchen. I tried the landline first. Nothing. Then my cell. No signal worth anything. Amanda checked hers. Samantha checked hers. Same result. For 1 second, all 3 of us just stood there listening to the dead silence from our phones. Then Samantha let out a breath and sat down hard in one of the chairs. "Okay, that is really bad." I almost smiled. "Not yet," I said. "Bad is when the heater quits, too." That got the smallest laugh out of Amanda. It surprised me how much that mattered. I put water on the stove and found 2 packets of hot chocolate in the cabinet behind a box of stale crackers. Not exactly hospitality, and more like survival with steam coming off it. But when I set the mugs in front of them, Samantha wrapped both hands around hers like I had handed her something priceless. Amanda stayed standing at first. She kept her towel around her shoulders and looked around my kitchen without being rude about it. Most people either stare too much or try too hard not to. She did neither. Her eyes landed on my drafting pencils, the ruler near the sink, the corner of a floor plan sticking out from under a notebook. "You draw for work?" she asked. "I design." "What kind of design?" "Buildings, houses mostly now, additions, small jobs." "Mostly now," she repeated. "So not always." There was no judgment in it. That made me answer. "I used to own a firm." Amanda looked at me for a beat. "Used to?" I gave a short nod. "Yeah, life happens." Samantha glanced between us. "That sounds like a bad story." "It is." Amanda finally sat down. "You don't have to tell it." That should have ended it. But nobody had said those words to me in a long time. Most people either wanted the whole ugly version or did not want any of it. "You don't have to tell." It felt different, like she understood that some stories cost something to say out loud. So of course I told her anyway. Not everything, just enough. I told them I had built something once. I told them it had gone under. I told them I was still here, which was not inspiring, but it was true. Amanda listened the way very few people do, not with pity, not with fake encouragement, just attention. When I finished, Samantha spoke first. "So you lost everything and kept working anyway?" I shrugged. Didn't have a lot of other options." Amanda kept looking at me. Then she said something that stayed with me long after that night. "No, you had one other option. You could have let it make you cruel." The room went quiet after that. I do not know why that line got under my skin and the way it did. Maybe because she said it like she knew something about survival. Maybe because nobody had ever called my restraint a choice before. To me, it had just felt like exhaustion. I made up the sofa bed later, gave them blankets, pointed them toward the bathroom. Samantha thanked me 3 times. Amanda only once. But the way she said it carried more weight than most speeches I had heard in my old life. I should have gone to bed then. Instead, I stood in the hall and watched her pull a card from her jacket pocket and slide it onto my kitchen table when she thought I was not looking. Not cash, not a note, just a card. People leave money when they want to settle a debt. They leave their name when they expect to return. And when I picked it up after they had gone quiet, in the living room, I saw the last name and realized the woman sleeping 10 feet from my kitchen was not just some stranded stranger. She was Amanda Sterling. And I had the sudden, sinking feeling that she had never told me the truth about who she really was. I did not sleep much that night, not because I thought Amanda and Samantha were dangerous, because the name on that card would not leave me alone. Sterling. I had heard it before, not personally, not in rooms I belonged in, but in the edges of industry talk back when I still wore expensive jackets and pretended I was too busy to notice who had more power than I did. Sterling development. Money, land, projects big enough to change skylines. I stood in my kitchen with that card in my hand and looked toward the living room where two women I did not know were sleeping under my blankets. The stranger part bothered me less than the lie. She had asked for help. I gave it. She had asked for trust. I gave that too. So why hide her name unless she expected it to change something? I set the card back down exactly where she had left it. Then I went to my room and lay awake staring at the ceiling, and listening to the old heater rattle and the storm wear itself out against the house. By morning, the sky looked innocent. That was the first thing that annoyed me. The kind of blue that made last night feel dramatic in hindsight. The kind that tricks you into thinking damage could not possibly have happened under it. But the street outside was littered with branches. Puddles still filled the cracked curb, and my porch had one broken flower pot I did not remember owning. I got up before they did and started coffee. I checked my phone. Signal was back. I should have felt relief for them. Instead, I felt something sharper. Curiosity, maybe. Or disappointment that the strange, suspended feeling of the night was already ending. I made eggs because it felt wrong not to. Toast, too. Cheap bread, cheap butter, cheap kitchen. But the smell filled the house in a way that almost made it feel like a home instead of a holding place. When Amanda and Samantha came in, they looked less like frightened strangers and more like themselves. That only made the question worse. Who exactly were they? Samantha smiled first. That smells amazing. It smells like eggs, I said. She laughed and sat down. Amanda stood there a second longer, studying me with an unreadable expression. You didn't sleep, she said. It was not a question. Neither did you. She glanced away. Fair. We sat down around my small table with the chipped corner and ate off mismatched plates like it was the most normal thing in the world. Samantha talked easiest. She always did. She told me the storm had hit faster than they expected, and that they had taken the wrong road trying to cut through town, that she hated being stranded and hated silence even more. Amanda said less, but when she did, it mattered. Thank you, she said again, not lightly this time, for last night. I looked at her over my coffee. For the phone call that didn't work, the hot chocolate, or not asking better questions. Samantha froze with her fork halfway up. Amanda set hers down carefully. You know? I reached into my pocket and placed the card on the table between us. I know your last name. Samantha let out a quiet breath. Amanda did not touch the card. I was going to tell you this morning. Were you? Yes. I leaned back in my chair. Then tell me now. Her eyes held mine, steady, no panic, no performance. Our father is Victor Sterling. There it was, clean and simple. Too clean. And you didn't think that mattered? It mattered too much, she said. I did not answer. Samantha looked miserable. We didn't want you to shut the door. That landed because it was honest. Amanda nodded once. That's the truth. People behave differently when they know who we are. Some get weird, some get fake, some get interested in the wrong things. Last night we needed help, not a reaction. So you lied. No, Amanda said quietly. I left something out. I almost laughed at that. Convenient difference. She accepted that without arguing, which made it worse somehow. Easier if she had gotten defensive. Or easier if I could have written the whole thing off as rich people playing games with ordinary lives. But she looked tired and ashamed, not scared of me, ashamed of the choice. Samantha pushed her plate away. We really did knock on other doors. How many? Amanda answered this time. 17. I stared at her. You counted? I started counting after number 6. Something inside me shifted. I pictured them in the rain again, door after door, faces behind curtains, porch lights turning into silence. By the time they got to me, they must have already known what it felt like to be treated like a problem no one wanted. That did not erase the lie, but it changed the shape of it. So what now? I asked. Amanda stood. Now you drive us back to the car if you still want to. Or we call someone and leave. Either way, you don't owe us anything. The word owe sat there between us. That was when I knew the money mattered, even if neither of us wanted it to. I stood too. Finish breakfast. Samantha blinked. That's it? For now. The drive to their car was quieter than I expected. My sedan made a noise every time I hit the brakes too hard, and Samantha kept pretending not to notice it. Amanda sat in the passenger seat with her hands folded in her lap and looked out the window like she was trying to memorize the route. Broken fences, small yards, tire shop, laundromat, pawn store. The ordinary bones of my life. Their BMW looked even more ridiculous in daylight. Black, clean-lined. Expensive enough that it looked like it belonged to someone whose worst problem was deciding where to take a meeting. And I popped the hood and took one look before shaking my head. Belt snapped. Samantha leaned closer. Can that be fixed? Not by magic. That got a smile out of her. I called Mike at the local garage. He said he would send a truck. While we waited, the three of us stood beside the car under a sky so clear it felt mocking. Amanda broke the silence first. You're angry. Should I not be? Yes, she said. You should. That made me look at her. She stepped closer, not too close, just enough that I had to choose whether to keep meeting her eyes. I didn't tell you because I wanted one night where my name didn't walk into the room before I did. That wasn't fair to you. I know that. But nothing else about what happened last night was fake. The words came out calm, but there was something under them, and something rawer than I expected from her. The fear wasn't fake. My gratitude wasn't fake. And the way you spoke to us wasn't fake either. I looked away first. Because I believed her. That was the problem. When the tow truck finally came, Samantha climbed into the cab and then leaned out again. You know, she said, Amanda never talks this much to strangers. Amanda gave her a look sharp enough to cut glass. Samantha ignored it and looked at me instead. She liked you the second you made a joke about the heater. Amanda actually closed her eyes for a second. I should have enjoyed that more than I did. But then Amanda reached into her bag and held out the card again. Take it, she said. Not because you owe us a call, not because we owe you one, just in case life gets strange again. I took it this time. Not because I planned to use it, because something about throwing it away would have felt dishonest. The tow truck pulled off with the BMW behind it. Samantha waved. Amanda did not. She just held my gaze through the passenger window until the truck turned the corner and took her with it. When I got back to the duplex, the silence felt larger than before. The folded blankets were still on the sofa. One mug sat in the sink with a faint ring of cocoa left at the bottom. A towel hung over the back of the kitchen chair where Amanda had forgotten it, or maybe left it on purpose. I picked it up, then stopped halfway to the laundry room. It smelled faintly like rain and expensive shampoo, which was ridiculous, and I hated that I noticed. And so I threw it in the washer, harder than necessary, and got back to work. That should have been the end of it. 2 strangers, 1 storm, 1 lie that almost ruined the good memory of a decent thing. But for the next 2 weeks, I caught myself reaching for my wallet more than once just to make sure the card was still there. I never called. Then one morning, while I was bent over a half-finished design for a cramped garage addition and trying to ignore the headache building behind my eyes, the doorbell rang. I almost did not answer, but I did. And when I looked through the peephole, Amanda and Samantha were standing there again. This time they were dry, polished, and impossible to mistake for anything ordinary. And between them stood a silver-haired man in a perfect gray suit, and holding a leather briefcase and looking at my front door like he already knew exactly what he was about to change. I opened the door, and Victor Sterling looked past me into my duplex like he was taking measurements, not judging, measuring. That was somehow worse. "Marcus," he said, offering his hand, "I appreciate you seeing us." I looked at Amanda first, then Samantha. Amanda's face was calm, but I could see the tension in the way her shoulders held still. Samantha gave me a small, hopeful smile, like she knew this was a lot and wanted me not to bolt. Then I looked back at their father. "You tracked me down pretty fast for someone who only wanted to say thank you." A corner of his mouth moved. "My daughters are not in the habit of spending the night in strangers' homes. When they do, I prefer to know who opened the door." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No," he said. "It is supposed to be honest." That answer caught me off guard enough that I stepped aside. "Come in." They entered carefully, like they understood the place mattered, because it was mine. Victor took in the worn sofa, the cheap blinds, the drafting table by the window, the stack of rolled plans in the corner. His eyes landed on more than one patched crack in the wall, but he was polite enough not to let his expression linger anywhere. Samantha and Amanda stayed near the couch. Victor remained standing. "I'll get to the point," he said. "My daughters told me what happened that night, the storm. The doors that stayed closed, yours that didn't. It was one night." "It usually is," he said. That is when character shows up." I folded my arms. "So what now? You hand me an award for basic decency?" Amanda winced at that. Victor did not. "No, I came because they also told me about you." My jaw tightened. "You looked me up." "I verified you," he said, same calm tone as before. "Public case records, old projects, articles, reviews from clients before the lawsuit. Then I looked at the work you are doing now." That made me straighten. "My current work is not public," Amanda spoke softly. "The garage edition sketch. You posted a cropped version on a design forum." I remembered then. A late-night upload, barely thinking, just asking for feedback under an old username. Victor opened the briefcase and pulled out a folder. "You had talent before the lawsuit," he said. "You have discipline after it. I am more interested in the second thing." He set the folder on my coffee table, but I did not touch it. "What exactly are you offering?" "A job?" The room went still. Victor went on. "Sterling Development is beginning a mixed-use project in Portland. Residential, retail, public green space, community integration. Large enough to matter, complex enough to fail, if the wrong person leads the design side. And you want me?" "Yes." I laughed once, low and disbelieving. Because I let your daughters use my dead landline and fed them eggs? Because you did that without knowing who they were? Because you lost your reputation and kept working anyway? Because your old work had vision and your newer work has restraint? Yeah, because I have hired polished men with clean records before, and half of them cared more about credit than buildings. He nodded toward the folder. You know what collapse feels like, Marcus. Men who know that either become bitter or exact. I am betting on exact. I still did not move. And what if I think this is pity dressed up in expensive language? Victor's expression did not change. Then your pride is louder than your judgment. The words hit hard because they were close to something I had already been afraid of. Amanda stepped forward then, just enough to pull some heat out of the moment. My father is not good at sounding gentle, she said. What he means is that this is real. Victor glanced at her. I said what I meant. Samantha rolled her eyes a little. That is also true. Despite myself, I almost smiled. And I opened the folder. Inside were clean printouts of my old projects. The Denver Community Center, the office complex that had nearly won a regional award, concept drawings from years ago that I had not looked at since before the case ruined everything. Under those were new pages, plans for the Portland project, budget summaries, leadership structure, salary, benefits, relocation. I stopped at the number. It was more money than I had seen attached to my name in over a year. For one ugly second, all I could think about was my overdue electric bill. Victor saw it in my face. He saw all of it. That reaction is exactly why I came in person, he said. Desperation makes people accept things they should examine. I would rather you examine it. So I can still say no. Yes. Amanda looked at me carefully when he said that. And I understood why. Because if I said yes too fast, it would look like I was taking the money and whatever strange emotional weight had come with her storm night honesty. And if I said no too fast, it would look like I was trying to prove something that my empty bank account could not afford. I closed the folder. Why not give this to someone from one of the big firms in Seattle or San Francisco? Someone without a public bankruptcy attached to his name? Victor's answer came without hesitation. Because ability is common, integrity is not. The room went quiet. He added, and because my daughters were frightened, soaked, and alone in a storm, and after 17 doors, yours was the one that opened. I do not ignore information like that. There it was. The line I could not push past. Not gratitude. Not charity. Information. And he was a builder too, I realize. Not of drawings, maybe, but of risk, trust, scale. He was choosing the way men like him always chose, by reading what others missed. I looked at Amanda. She had not said much since the offer came out, but her eyes were on me the whole time, and there was something almost painful in the way she waited. Not for me to impress her, not for me to save face, just waiting to see whether I would let the worst year of my life decide the rest of it, too. So I asked the question that had been sitting under everything. If I take this job, I need to know something. Victor lifted a brow. Go ahead. And this has nothing to do with me owing your family. Nothing. I am not taking a reward. Amanda answered before her father could. We know. Her voice was quiet, but it cut straight through the room. You gave us shelter, she said. You do not owe us gratitude for being decent, and we do not get to buy meaning out of that night. This offer is about your work. It has to be. Victor nodded once. Agreed. That mattered more than the salary, more than Portland, more than the office that might be waiting. I had lost enough already. I was not about to rebuild my life on terms that would rot underneath me later. So I asked one more thing. If I come on, I earn my place. No favors. No shortcuts because of your daughters. Victor almost looked offended. If you come on, he said, you will have expectations. Not favors. Samantha laughed softly. That is a rich person language, for he is absolutely going to work you to death. Victor gave her a look. Not to death. That time I did smile, and just like that, the pressure in the room shifted enough for me to breathe again. They stayed another 20 minutes. We went over practical things, flights, start dates, temporary housing. Amanda said very little during that part. Samantha asked whether Portland had decent coffee. Victor made one phone call that sounded like 3 people's week had just changed because he had decided mine might. Then they stood to leave. At the door, Victor held out his hand again. I took it. Take the weekend, he said, and read everything. Ask harder questions than the ones you asked today. Then call me Monday. I nodded. Oh, all right. Samantha hugged me before I could react. Please say yes, she whispered. I like being right about people. Amanda came last. She did not hug me. She just stood there close enough that I could see the fine tension in her jaw, like she was holding back 10 things and had decided none of them belonged on my porch. You were right to be angry, she said, and you were right to leave the card. Her eyes softened, just a little. Then she said the line I would carry with me all the way to Portland. Some doors don't look important when you open them. After they left, I stood alone in the quiet of my duplex with that folder in my hands and the old life I had been mourning on one side of me and the unknown on the other. On Monday morning, I called Victor Sterling. I'm in, I said. The move happened fast. Too fast for second thoughts to grow roots. Debts got paid. Boxes got packed. My drafting tools, my books, the pieces of my life that had survived the fall all made their way to Portland. The apartment Sterling arranged was clean and modern and almost too bright for the man I had become in that duplex. But the work was real, hard, worthy. The kind of work that asks for your full attention and rewards it. I earned my place exactly the way I said I would. Weeks later, I stood in my new office with plans spread out in front of me and the city glowing beyond the glass. In my wallet, Amanda's card was still there, worn at the corners now, a reminder. Not that kindness gets rewarded. Life is not that simple. It was a reminder that the worst version of yourself is not the one that gets the final vote. That one tired, an honest choice can break the shape of a lonely life. That some people walk in out of the storm and leave the door open behind them. I gave 2 strangers a place to wait out one night. They gave me back a future I was too proud to ask for. And in the end, the thing that changed everything was not money or luck or even timing. It was this. He opened the door anyway.